Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Message Center announcements here for April 14th, 2025. My name is Don Dunne, and I'm going to walk you through the most important ones that I've been noticing within the tenants to be able to really understand high level what's going on with some of the changes within your organization here within the next couple months. So let's kind of get started on some of the big changes that are happening. The first one, and I don't think I've ever had to do this yet for a Message Center post, but we're going to talk about bookings. And if you're not familiar with bookings, the ability for someone to be able to have a link that they can go into a page, somebody else can go into a page and see when their availability is, and then be able to actually, pick a time to be able to meet. So this functionality specifically is wrapped around Teams Premium users, right? If they have the Teams Premium license, then they unlock more features, right? So coming here early May to mid-May, we're going to be able to have this queue area. And this is going to be really for schedulers and admins to be able to see across a group, right? So it could be individuals or you could have group bookings to be able to look at what's going on with that particular queue and consolidate, see what's going on from the day-to-day type activities. And by the way, it also unlocks features like being able to do self-serve. So if you wanted to assign yourself to an appointment or unassign yourself, you could do that as well. And you can send out SMS and email reminders overall. One of those things, this is something you want to make sure that you're letting your users who have this license and have this capability and been using it, let them know what the heck is going on with this so they know this change is coming shortly. Then we're going to jump to Microsoft new Outlook for Windows and web. And this is wrapped around the delegate side of things. So having somebody who is a delegate for someone else being able to schedule meetings and those pieces. Well, we've had the ability for a little while to be able to assign a category to our owners' emails, right? But this is actually going to give them the ability to be able to create and apply those categories. So if a new category needs to be developed, then that delegate will have that capability out of the box. It is a permission that needs to be enabled. So you go back into the permissions for that particular owner's mailbox, and then you're able to add that ability to be able to do the category. So this is, again, one of those things you want to make sure people know that this is happening, and it's coming mid-February, already starting to come out for some of you, to mid-April. Staying on the Outlook side, specifically, thinking about that whole idea of being able to go offline, right? So with Outlook, and especially in the new Outlook for Windows, being able to take that offline, but we didn't have the ability to be able to do anything with attachments when it's offline. Well, coming here soon, right? We have targeted in mid-May to late May, worldwide in June, July, and then GCC coming in mid-July to late July. You can then take those attachments and save them without having an internet connection. It's features that you have to enable in settings in Outlook. And there's two different settings. Number one, obviously you have to be on offline mode, but then secondary, you need to be able to flip the switch for include file attachments. Jumping over to SharePoint, there's going to be a change, especially for those who are power users with SharePoint. You know that toolbars, we have, or I should say tables, we have this ability to be able to modify tables. However, that experience is going to change. And you notice on the left-hand side, that current experience is more of that tool panel on the right-hand side that pops up. Now you're going to be actually getting a toolbar specifically to be able to help out with this. And you're getting some new features, by the way. You're getting features like merge split and add space before and after, as well as a couple other things that are going to happen. The one thing about this new toolbar experience is going to automatically resize depending upon the size of the section. But keep that in mind that if it is compressed too far, then you're going to get the ... or overflow button that's going to pop out at that point. Again, big change. Make sure people know that this is happening somewhere between mid-April to mid-May. Let's jump to Copilot for just a little bit. And we're going to get some new features within Copilot mobile apps. And this is going to be not only for just the Copilot app that you have, but it's also going to be coming to the Teams app and Microsoft Outlook in the Copilot sections. This ability to be able to create images using natural language, to be able to come up with whatever images you want. Right? We can do that right now in the desktop application and web applications. Now that whole feature is then coming to those mobile apps, coming here mid-April to late April. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is, and I'm not sure how many of you guys have been utilizing PowerPoint Live for a lot of things, this ability to be able to hand over to another presenter or then have somebody take over has been there ever since PowerPoint Live came out. But we haven't had that capability with just regular sharing PowerPoint, right? So if I'm sharing that on the desktop scenario, right? So this is new slide controls that are coming out here in Microsoft Teams meetings that presenters can share control a presenter to attendees that are in there, right? So that presenter can then say, hey, I want these particular attendees to be able to take over and control the PowerPoint. And it's not the ability to be able to request, right? So we can do that when we're doing PowerPoint Live and those types of things, but this is really giving us that ability to be able to choose who can control that and then make it a lot easier for people to be able to go in and take over and do their part of the presentation as necessary, right? Understand this is enabled for internal users and disabled for external users. You notice the dates that are coming out here with targeted happening in May, worldwide to DoD happening between June and August. Again, big change. Make sure you let your end users know what's going on with this. Staying on the team side, again, a little bit more Copilot information. One thing that I have found, especially when I'm utilizing Copilot in my Teams meetings and doing a summary of what's going on, sometimes that information gets pretty lengthy, right? So this feature change is going to allow us to be able to take that data, that information that's in there, whether it be Word or maybe a table format, and move it into Word or Excel. And basically, there's going to be a button that's going to be exposed within that Copilot chat that allows us to be able to open up in that other chat. Right. Again, this is going to be dependent. One thing to keep in mind, this is dependent upon what your meeting policies are and if you're enabling that to happen. So what will happen is if I'm summarizing a particular meeting and it goes over 1,300 characters, then all of a sudden, open in Word button, in this case, is going to then appear. I can click on that and it will bring me into Word with all that information copied over into that. Same thing on the Excel side. If I have a table information, right? So I can take that, if that table is formatted, then I can take that and move it automatically into Excel without having to do that copy and paste myself. Big change, targeted in May, with worldwide happening in mid-May to late May, right? So the first part is targeted, second half of May is then worldwide. Big change, especially if you have Copilot, make sure you're letting people know that that's an option. Sticking in the team side, there's a new change happening for those incoming calls. So if you guys are familiar with it, when a call comes up, that window, just big window pops open and takes over everything on my screen. So with this change, you have a setting within Teams that you can actually have it as a small window popping up. So it's not as distracting as the other format, right? And you can set this up in settings, in calls, and view incoming settings. You can then change that experience overall. And this is going to be on Teams, Windows desktop, on Mac desktop, as well as for web. And then Teams for iOS and Android is also going to be available. Big change, though. This is a big change. I think this is going to be something for a lot of people to be able to make those that happen within their organization. All right. Another big change, a lot of changes happening here in Teams, but this is going to be about the new channel. If I wanted to create a new channel within my Teams, all of that's moving starting here in early mid-May to late May up to the new icon, right? So in the new icon, there's a drop down, and in there you'll be able to do new channels. And then you're going to say, okay, I want a new channel. What kind of channel do you want? Where do you want it, right? So that experience is going to change across the board. That does not take away from the ability to do it the old-fashioned way, right? The old way that we used to be able to do that. Just a newer way to be able to create those channels and streamline that capability. On the events side within Teams, right? So there's a little bit of a change in the manage what attendees sees area. So that, if you're familiar with that in Town Hall, if you're familiar with that in webinar, this gives you the ability to have somebody then, maybe it's an organizer or co-organizer, be able to kind of be a producer, right? And we've been able to, for the longest time, just be able to bring people on, right? So I have my manage what attendees see off screen and I bring them on screen. Well, now with this change happening, right, worldwide, mid-April to late April, so happening at this point, content is going to be included in that, right? So say presenter shares that content into this particular event, it's not automatically going to be dropped onto the stage like it is previously. So I, as a producer, can go in there, toggle that on, and bring the content on there as well as my presenters, right? So I have more control over what's being shown within that event, right? So keep that in mind on top of that. Also, especially if organizers and presenters are joining from the mobile, they will see the participant and content that has been brought to the screen. They won't see that information or those presenters or the content that's off screen, right? So just only that information that's on screen. Big changes. Make sure you're letting your organizers, your presenters know about this change, especially if they're utilizing Manage What Attendees See in webinars and town hall events in Teams. All right, so some quick mentions I do want to talk about a little bit. The first one on the top left kind of talks a little bit about some usage reports that's had a bug, right? And so this one talks about the ability that right now it's actually coming up pretty soon. You'll actually see the relevant data wrapped around town hall usage that's going to be included in those reports. This is a bug fix that came out. The next one below that really is talking about this, the ability to be able to have your Teams headset noise suppression happening for Windows, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a wireless or a dongle headset now, it's going to enhance that noise suppression. Doesn't matter what kind of a scenario you have, but it will identify and suppress noises that are detected away from the mic, not right next to it, but away from that mic so that you can have a much better experience. You have some Copilot pieces that are coming up as well. Some who can manage the Copilot agent side of things. It used to be global admin. Now we're talking about the ability to have an AI admin role, be able to manage these agents as part of the integrated apps page. There is also a fix that came out for the Microsoft Call Quality Dashboard Power BI connector. There was a connector out there. If you're familiar with this would be for those who have deployed the quality experience reports or the CQD or call quality dashboard Power BI templates. There was a bug in the connector. So make sure if you've not used it for a little while and you go in there and it's not working, make sure you go and get the latest and greatest. That post will have the link to be able to get there. Also notice some changes that are happening as far as what's going on when we are creating planner and projects. So make sure you check out that. And then also on the Teams button side of things in Teams meetings before, if I wanted to have a primary and I wanted to be able to use that button to start things and I had maybe a couple different devices that I'm using, I'd have to switch that in Teams. Now it doesn't matter. As long as I have it on, it's going to honor that Teams button across the board. Ability to stop Copilot is also happening here in Teams. So that button to stop Copilot generating anything because I really screwed up and I really need to go back and change it. I can now will be able to do that here mid-May. And then the ability to be able to put Python and Excel. We've been hearing about this for a while, but now it's finally coming out here mid-April to late April. And then finally, some new admin actions I want to highlight, and then we'll move on to the rest of our content. There are some changes here from Microsoft Purview, I should say. I want to make sure you know that's happening here quickly, especially if you're using the Purview Audit Management Activity API and pulling that information in to your custom reports, right? That's happening in April 21st, happening here quickly. There are some new IP addresses you need to make sure you're ready for. And then on the Exchange side, there are some changes on the DNS provisioning side of things. Okay, so make sure you understand and read this. It's coming July 1st. We got a little bit of runway. They're going to move any subdomains that you have, or I should say any domains that you have and accepted domains you have are going to end up being subdomains underneath the mx.microsoft part of the DNS. So make sure you understand what that means to you. Also understand if there is no, in this new scenario, if that doesn't seem to be resolving appropriately, it'll go back to the A record capabilities that it did before and be able to then verify that domain is still there. But make sure you're updating, because all of this is happening because of security reasons. So make sure that you're updating to the latest and greatest. So, and with that, I think we're done for today. Hope you have a good rest of your April and you got some good information out of this.